Well, I'm coming to you from beautiful downtown Oswego, Kansas, as we come today for the sermon for August 29th. Kind of hot out there today, but, well, I'm inside where there's some air conditioning, so it's not quite so bad where I'm at. We're still dealing with the coronavirus situation, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. We got troubles in Afghanistan, wildfires out west, and it's quite a situation that we're in right now. But we just ask the Lord to help us, to guide us along the way, and knowing that His love is there for us, and we give Him the glory for all things. Today's sermon is from James, chapter 1, verses 21 to 25. James is kind of more practical. He's tells it like it is. He doesn't go into a lot of details, but he tells it a way that we can understand. And so here is what he has to say in this passage. Rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth and wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. Be doers of the word, and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look in the mirror, where they look at themselves, and on going away immediately forget what they were like. But those who look at the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. May God add a blessing to the reading, the hearing, and the understanding of His word. Well, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I know that when I get up and look in the mirror, what I see is not what I expect to see. I have this idea in my mind what I look like. And when I look in the mirror, I go, Grandpa, what are you doing here? Because the idea I have in my mind of what I look like is like 20 years younger than I am now. That somehow in my mind I should look younger, but Grandpa is there. But then again, I am a grandpa, so hey, I guess it's only fitting. But it's interesting the way things are. You know, Mark Twain is noted as saying, it isn't the parts of the Bible that I don't understand that bother me. It's the parts I do understand. You know, sometimes when we look at the Bible, there are some parts of the Bible that are hard to understand. You know, we try to read Deuteronomy or Ecclesiastes or sometimes even Romans or Hebrews. We have to think about it a little bit sometimes and wonder, what is he trying to say? What are they trying to say here? And some of it can even be up to interpretation. And different people can look at it different ways. And it all depends on someone's theology. However, when we look at the book of James, James doesn't get into deep theological type things. James just tells it like it is and puts it in terms that are easy to understand. He's pretty practical. And you may not have heard of the names of Tozer or Kant, Niebuhr, Bonhoeffer. Some of those are like, well, you may have heard their names, but who's Bonhoeffer anyway? Well, these are some of the theologians of the past that have influenced a lot of different people and had some different ideas, and sometimes they are kind of hard to understand. And those of us that went to seminary know some of those names and have had to study some of the things that they taught. But you may have heard of Max Lucado, Chuck Swindoll, Philip Yancey, or Rick Warren. They're more of the modern type Christian writers. They're not necessarily theologians, we wouldn't say, although they do talk about some theological things, but they put things in a little bit easier to understand than some of the old theologians. You have to read and have to really think about what they're trying to say, whereas some of the more modern people put it in terms that most of us can understand and that we can relate to. And so that's kind of where James is at and what he does as well. Puts it in ways that common everyday people can understand. You know, what James says isn't rocket surgery or brain science, it's pretty easy. We can understand what he says. Now, the passage that we just read, it says, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness. What does that mean? Well, it means don't do things you're not supposed to do, right? Quit doing those things that really aren't supposed to be doing. It's pretty simple. A man went to the doctor one time and said, hey, doc, I broke my arm in 3 places. And the doctor said, you better stay out of those places. That's the whole idea, is rid ourselves of those things that might cause us to do the wrong thing and stop doing those wrong things. It's just one of those things, the way it is. So, I hate to bring this up, and some people might not like me bringing it up, but about 10 years ago or so, at our annual conference, we have our clergy sessions where the clergy are separate from everyone else. And the bishop said, I have something that I need to talk to you about. We've got a problem. The problem was that there were 9 pastors. This was back when we were still the Kansas East Conference. 9 pastors that had been caught watching porn on the church computer. That's 9 that got caught. We don't know how many that didn't get caught. But the idea was they were doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing. Especially not on the church computer. And so he brought that out and said, you need to stop doing this stuff, all right? And for heaven's sake, if you're going to do it, don't do it on the church computer. Well, but you see, that's the thing, is that, basically don't do that. Bob Newhart had a TV show years ago. There he was a psychologist or psychiatrist, whichever. And they had a little thing one time, a little play on what he did. He had somebody come into his office, and she was having problems. She says, I have this fear of being buried alive in a box. And he says, I've got a solution for you. It's very simple. She said, do I need to write it down? No. It's only 2 words. I think you can remember 2 words. He goes, really? Yeah. Well, what is it? He said, stop it. Well, but no, just stop it. That was his advice. Well, a lot of times it's easy to say, stop it. And we know we need to stop something, but doing it is another thing. The next thing in the passage, it says, be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. We can know the Bible inside and out. We can memorize the vast amounts of passages. We can know what it says. But if we don't do it, what good is it? This is part of the reason people in churches sometimes are called hypocrites, right? Because they say one thing, but they do something else. But then again, we're all hypocrites every once in a while. So, hey, we oftentimes say, somebody says, well, I don't go to church because it's full of a bunch of hypocrites. And you tell them, well, one more isn't going to hurt anything. But, understanding something and doing it is another. About 10 years ago or so, it was determined that we pastors were an unhealthy bunch. Surprise, surprise. That we were overweight, didn't exercise enough, and had too much stress. And so they said, we've got to do something because the health insurance was costing more and more and more because we had so many claims being brought in that they said, we've got to figure out a way to reduce this cost. Well, all we have to do is reduce the claims, which means we just have to make everybody healthier, right? So somebody had a bright idea. Everybody needs a life coach to help them understand that they need to eat right, lose weight, exercise, and get rid of their stress. Sounds like a simple solution. We just needed somebody to help us do that. And I got one of those. I got a health coach, a life coach. They would call me up once a month. And we started out by, saying, well, what do you need to do? And I said, well, yeah, I need to eat, do a better job at eating right. I need to do a better job at exercising, and I need to, take time off every once in a while and reduce the stress. Well, so we talked about that. A month later, they called me back. So how you doing? And we had basically the same conversation every month. Well, I need to do a little bit better job at eating right. I need to exercise a little bit more. I'm doing okay as far as the stress parts, taking time off. I'm doing that. And really, for about a year, we had the exact same conversation every month. I need to do better. And finally got to the point where if I saw on the caller ID it was the life coach, I didn't bother answering the phone. Well, I must not have been the only one, because the program only lasted 1 year. They did away with it because it didn't work. Why? Why wouldn't it work? Well, it wasn't that I didn't know that I needed to eat better. I didn't know. It wasn't that I didn't know that I needed to exercise more or reduce my stress. It's not a matter of knowing. It's a matter of doing. So, yeah. So, even the doctor told me, the doctor says, hey, you're about 20 pounds overweight. Your cholesterol's too high. Your blood pressure's a little higher than we'd like. So, yeah. It's not that I don't know. It's just a matter of getting me motivated to do the things that and we try. We work at it. But it's one of those things. We can have sermons that teach people about the Bible. We go to Sunday school. We can have Bible studies. We can even do devotionals on our own, study and read the Bible on our own, and learn all kinds of theology. But if we don't put it into practice, what good does it do? It's kind of like me. I know what I'm supposed to do, but doing it is another thing altogether. And part of that is we as individuals, what we do, and part of it is what we do as a church. And sometimes we're limited in what we're able to do. We're limited in, sometimes it's our age or sometimes our abilities limit us into things. Not everybody can go on a mission trip somewhere, or not everybody can make meals for large groups of people, or go build houses or repair houses. And not everybody can do all those things, but we can do a few things. We can all do something. We can all do something to help maybe our friends and our neighbors, our family, just maybe little things. Just nothing else, just checking up on them, make sure that they're okay. Giving somebody a little word of encouragement every now and then, and helping them with that, or looking for the needs that somebody has. We don't have to do magnanimous things. We just have to do little things every once in a while. I had a neighbor, when we moved to the new house that we're at, I was going to plant a garden. Well, I got out the rototiller and I went out, and it wasn't going to be a very big plot, just a small area. But my tiller would go for about 6 feet and it'd die. It would start back up again, but I had to go for about another 6 feet, it'd die. And I'd start it again and go for about another. It was taking me forever to get that little bit of ground tilled up. Well, neighbor happened to see me. He drove his tractor over, had a tiller on it, and he said, "Put that thing away. I'll till the ground up for you." He saw a need. He saw something that needed to be done. And I said, "Well, do I owe you anything for this?" And he said, "No, I'm just being a good neighbor." Right there. Just kind of an example of that, of being a doer, of seeing what needs to be done, and then doing it. He could have let it go. He said, "Well, too bad." But no, he came over and helped. So, and we as a church, kind of the same thing. Is, we may not all be able to do big things that everybody sees and everybody takes note of, but we can all do something. Maybe our church can do some little thing. And of course, I'm new here in Oswego, so I'm still learning how things go. But I think of an example is of a church that had a thing called a quarter pole. It's a pole about made of clear plastic tubing. It was about 3 feet tall, and it was about the right size for a quarter to fit inside. Every Sunday, some people would come and they'd put quarters in the pool. When the quarter pool was full, it had about $30 worth of quarters. Well, what did they do then? They took that money and they sent it to Heifer Project. The Heifer Project is an organization that helps low-income people, and where it started out was to give somebody a heifer calf that would grow up and have a calf of its own, and people could then raise their own and maybe even get the milk from the calf. But they not only do heifers or cattle, they do pigs and goats and sheep, chickens, and even trees. So, but to help people help themselves. So the idea was they would give a little bit of money every so often to Heifer Project, 1 quarter at a time. That one little thing they could do. And there's an organization in Pittsburgh called Wesley House. It's part of the United Methodist Church that has a food program where they give food to people that are low income. And once in a while, they need a little extra help. So churches sometimes would have canned food drives where they would collect canned goods to give to Wesley House. Not anything really big, but it was something they could do, that they could be doers of the word and help out in that way. Yeah. Somebody might point out to me, well, it says in Ephesians 2:8-9, for by grace you've been saved through faith, and this not of your own doing. It is a gift of God, not the result of works, that no one may boast. Very true. Very true. We are saved by grace and not by works. Absolutely true. But the interesting thing is, if we take that one verse and leave it by itself, those 2 verses, leave them by themselves. But if we look at the very next verse, see, after verse 9, we look at verse 10 and see what it says. It says, for we are what he has made us, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand to be our way of life. About that. We were created for good works. No, the good works don't save us. We are saved by grace. This is true. But the reason that we're here is to do good things, to help others. And it says that is to be our way of life. Wow. That kind of puts it in perspective. Let's see here. Well, that's part of the reason I became a United Methodist. Because I saw that one of the things that they do is not only do they tell people about what the Bible teaches, but they also emphasize doing things as well. They kind of do. And of course, the United Methodists aren't the only ones. I mean, several churches do that. But I just saw that there was a special emphasis there. I've known some churches that their emphasis was on saving people, which is a good thing, teaching them about the Bible and getting them saved. But that's about as far as they would go. Meeting their spiritual needs, which is a good thing, but really weren't doing anything for people's physical needs. I think we need to do a little bit of both. We need to provide people spiritual needs, but we also need to provide for their physical needs as well. And of course it goes the other way too. There are some that go overboard on the physical needs and ignore the spiritual. So it's kind of something that we have to work on in both ways. But as we go and we think about it, that we are to be, as it says, to be doers of the word and not hearers only. Well, thank you for coming and being with me today. May God go with us to guide us, lead us, and help us today and every day. Amen.